All right, welcome back to the show. At this time, we are joined by Chris Blair. Chris is the voice of the LSU Tigers. Welcome to the show, Chris.
No, thanks for having me on. Hope everybody's doing well, staying safe, and hopefully we can get through this sooner than later.
Absolutely, man. And we appreciate you being here and helping us to get over the quarantine blues. And who better than one of the most passionate play by play analysts in the nation? And I want to ask you about that because it seems like in your profession that being the voice of the LSU Tigers is almost the height because as a person who has to have so much passion when they are calling a game, what better place than LSU where the fan base is so passionate? And so my question for you is this: how did that come about and what's it been like to be the voice of the LSU Tigers?
Well, it was first off a dream come true. I can't remember at what age, but I've always been, kind of following those voices that I heard as a kid growing up in Kentucky and then in South Carolina, and the voices that you heard that brought you the action. Starting with Kaywood Ledford at Kentucky when I was very very small, and then eventually in high school moving to South Carolina and hearing Bob Fulton for the Gamecocks and Jim Phillips, the late great Jim Phillips for Clemson. And it's something I always wanted to do. Never in a million years, a kid growing up in the coal mining country of Eastern Kentucky thought I would be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with LSU, but I'm certainly thrilled to be. Just started offering to do games wherever I could find the opportunity. Started in high school, doing high school games when I was in college. Then eventually when we moved to South Carolina, once I got latter part of college, just kept begging and begging to help with the Clemson Tiger Sports Network, and was fortunate enough. I guess they got tired of me asking. They eventually let me help in a small role as a producer. I did that for 5 years, and really learned a lot about the business that I do today, and learned from some of the best in the business, including Jim Phillips, who I mentioned earlier, and Don Munson, who's actually the voice of Clemson now. Was kind of my direct boss. So I got to work for Don for 4 or 5 seasons and learned a lot from him. And, got an opportunity to go to Georgia Southern University down in Statesboro, Georgia, near Savannah. Very proud former FCS or 1AA team with 6 national titles. Eventually made the move up to the FBS, and I was a part of that transition in my 10 seasons there, and learned quite a bit, running a statewide network. And then the opportunity arose with Jim Hawthorne, the great Jim Hawthorne here at LSU, which I'm happy to say is a very good friend of mine. And has been very, very good to me since arriving here. Decided he would do it one more year. And so, like many others, applied for the job, sent it off on a wing and a prayer to Baton Rouge. And lo and behold, after 6, 7 months, got the call to come and said immediately, when do I need to be there? And it's coming up on 5 years now. So it was a dream come true, and it is, it's one of the things I learned at Georgia Southern, a much smaller fan base, but a very passionate fan base, especially when it comes to football. So on a smaller scale, I got a really good education there.
Right.
On what you have to do and how you have to handle things. And now it's just bigger numbers here at LSU. But you're right, it's a passionate group, and just like the players and coaches, you got to bring it each and every time out, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball.
Absolutely. And I've got to tell you, Chris, talking to you brings back so many great memories because I remember as a preteen when we would be watching football. I lived in the state of Alabama and the state of Georgia. I remember in both instances laying there on the floor as people were watching the Alabama game and them turning off the volume, putting the TV on mute, and turning Eli Gold on the radio. And in Georgia, they would do the same thing, but with Larry Munson. And there was just such a passion that was there as you listen to the person that's embedded in that program. And I don't get to do that as much because I have to watch so much TV, but man, I still enjoy hearing the voice of that particular team more than I do national voices. And that's not a knock on them. I just enjoy the passion that comes from the voice of that college network And I've got to tell you, Chris, you're one of those guys that I really enjoy just turning off the volume on the TV and listening to you call LSU games.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's how I grew up. In my house, grew up in a broadcasting family, so radio was always a part of our lives. But if there was a big game on, it would be on the radio somewhere in the house. I mean, it would be on the TV as well. But a lot of times, like you said, back before all of the digital delay, you could sync them. What I found now, and I still do to this day, if I'm at home and not calling a game and there's a big game on, especially college game, I'll go pull up the new technology, the tune in, the streaming apps,
Right.
and makes it a lot easier to sync with the TV. And I'll still do it to this day. And I like what I've got heroes that work in this business to this day that were mentors to me. And I'm fans of so many, not only in the SEC, but across the country that I really enjoy listening to and learning from these guys. You always can learn something new, and I enjoy listening on the radio to this day because there's so many great people out there doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, the longer you do it, the more memories you will have. But it's hard to imagine that you're going to have many moments as good as the 2019 football season. What a special, special year it was. And let me just ask you, as you were headed into the 2019 season, did you have any idea that this LSU football team was going to be as good as they were?
It's interesting. I've been asked that a lot. And, I have to admit, and people can say I'm lying now, and I wouldn't blame them. But because there was such a radical difference, really going back to spring football of 2019, I mean, it was just a different scheme, obviously, as we all found out. But
Right.
everything was different about it, especially on the offensive side. And then we got to fall camp, and I had a chance to take in the 3 preseason scrimmages over at Tiger Stadium. And I walked away from all 3 feeling like this is I can't even describe to people. It was a closed scrimmage, obviously. I couldn't even describe to people what we were seeing. Number one, because I don't think they would have believed me. But number two, it was just so different than what everybody was accustomed to. And, I think the Texas game, I think a lot of people, not just LSU fans, but college football fans in general, the biggest thing about that game, it was a shootout, but it was the mentality of LSU offensively. It wasn't about having a lead and taking the air out of the football and watching the clock tick. They were on attack mode from start to finish, and that was one of the characteristics of this team, and they got themselves in a couple of shootouts as the season went along. But to be honest with you, I wasn't sure they'd go 15-0. I wasn't sure by any stretch of the imagination that so many offensive records would be broken, not only at LSU, but in the SEC, eventually, all of college football. So I couldn't have guessed that. And I also knew the schedule was pretty tough. 15-0 is a tall order. But I certainly felt like this was a team that could play with anybody in the country and could beat anybody in the country on any given night. And for that reason, early in the season, I had an inkling it could be very special.
Once again, we're speaking to Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers. Chris, it's really neat to think about you having that perspective, seeing the scrimmages ahead of time and thinking that this team could be really, really good and this offense could be really, really good. But it's one thing to see it in a scrimmage against each other. It's another thing to see it coming to fruition in a game. And I wonder what game that it was. For me, it was the Florida game. Watching them put 42 points on a very good Florida defense. At that point, I realized, okay, this offense is legit. At what point in the season did you realize, man, this is really going to work and this is really going to be historically good?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it is the Florida game. In fact, last week we were doing some social media on that particular game, and for me, that was the game after the 42-28 win, and in the fashion that game played out,
Right.
where Florida got a lead, they were down in the second half for the first time. That is LSU, and then they just eventually the dam breaks, and there's nothing that any defense can do to stop it. And we saw that a couple of times later on in the year. But after that Florida game, I felt like not only myself, people around LSU, but really those that work in college football realized that LSU wasn't just contending for an SEC West title or a possible SEC title, that this was a national title contention type of team. And I think that Florida game was kind of the weather vane, if you will, that this is a team to be reckoned with. And for me, that was kind of the moment where we all looked at each other and thought we could be playing for a long time into the year 2020.
Absolutely. Now, Chris, we've talked about this offense and how they just ripped through the schedule from the very beginning, and you could see signs that this offense was going to be, again, historically great. However, the defense did not get off to the same type of start that we saw from the offense. In fact, there were many times during the season that this defense was questioned and even called the weak link of this team. And a lot of that might have been because of injuries, perhaps other things that you can kind of share with us. But as you look at this LSU defense, as the season went on, it got better and it got better. At what point in the season did you realize, okay, this LSU defense is now becoming the unit that we thought it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, and I think there were definite reasons. I mean, I sat and listened to all the pundits throughout the season talk about, LSU's defense and their troubles, and that was going to be their Achilles heel. And yet, watching each game from start to finish, when plays need to be made, when their moments arose that the defense had to come up with something, they did all season long.
Right.
And again, I think everybody became victim of the stats. And again, the argument can be made, the stats were vastly different defensively for LSU than they had been for years and years and years. It wasn't your typical LSU defense that absolutely suffocates. But I think there were two reasons for that. One, some of the guys that we thought were going to be the bell cow, so to speak, had good seasons, but I wouldn't say breakout seasons.
Right.
Grant Delpit, I think K'Lavon Chaisson was a little slow out of the gate. Michael Divinity was a little slow out of the gate. But at the same time, you saw some younger guys or maybe some more unknown guys like Jacob Phillips and Patrick Queen at the linebacker spot. I think Christian Fulton was a known commodity, but he played so well that, so many teams, their only option was to go against Stingley, the freshman. And that proved to be disappointing for opposing offenses. But I think also the fact that they had to get used to the pace at which LSU's offense was going to play.
Right.
And I think that took a little adjusting simply because they would be on the sideline. They'd make a 3 and out. They'd go to the sideline. They may be back on the field in a minute 20, a minute 30 on the game clock. And, LSU scored so many touchdowns under 3 minutes that would make your head spin. So I think it was a combination of that. Then there were obviously injuries, and everybody goes through injuries. But because of some of the younger guys having to play, especially up front on the defensive line, by the time you got to week 8, week 9, that matchup in Tuscaloosa, which was an absolute slugfest, and then you see what they did to obviously a weakened Arkansas team. They obliterated Texas A&M. They stymied Georgia's running game in the SEC title game. Everybody thought it was going to be a shootout against Oklahoma, and they got shut down. And then eventually Clemson's offense got slowed down and stopped in the title game. So I think about week 7, week 8, you saw some of the injured players come back. You had now depth on the defensive front. You had depth at linebacker, and they were able to keep fresh legs out there. And I think probably week 7, week 8 is when a lot of us felt like this defense is going to be just fine, and the more that everybody else in the country talks about it, the better it is for LSU.
Once again, we're talking to Chris Blair. He is the voice of the LSU Tigers. Now, Chris, normally I wouldn't do this because it is so soon after the season and maybe not time to truly reflect over what we just saw. But I've got to ask you because, man, we've been in quarantine for some time now, so we've had more time to reflect than we need. So my question for you is this: looking back on this historic 2019 season, and there were so many big moments, big plays, individual awards, team awards, all of this stuff that transpired, happened, and took place. What, as you look back now, was your favorite moment of the 2019 season?
That is a tough one. I mean, you mentioned it from the outset. It was a magical season from start to finish, and there were so many big moments and so many big games. I mean, you look at the top 10 opponents LSU faced last year. From the start of the season, middle of the season to the end of the season, and every time it seemed it was easy for the national pundits to come on and go, "This is the one." They haven't faced this before. They haven't played this type of defense before. But to me, the Florida game comes as a highlight because Tiger Stadium was rocking. It is cross division rivalry, and there's not a lot of love between Florida and LSU.
Right.
And, LSU absolutely wore them out in the second half, and that stadium was absolutely a living thing. The Alabama win, obviously, in Tuscaloosa, just because it got LSU over a hump that really had bothered them for nearly a decade. And, to do it in Tuscaloosa, it was a great atmosphere, as it always is, to break the win streak there for Coach Saban. And that great program was certainly special. The win over Georgia 2 years in a row, they played Georgia at home in 2018 and just wore them out, and did the same thing in the SEC title game. And there were so many people that thought the Bulldogs defense was just going to be too much for LSU, and that LSU's defense couldn't handle the running game. Well, that just fell apart. But ultimately, I think, to answer your question, it would be beating Clemson in New Orleans and the way that it happened, because they had to overcome adversity, the largest deficit of the season. Early in the game, it just looked like Clemson. Just watching the game, it looked like Clemson should be up 28-0. They had LSU pinned back inside their 5 to start the game. That limits the playbook, obviously. But yet Clemson was only leading 7-0, and by 10 points. And to me, it was just a matter of time before the spark caught and LSU went on fire, and they did that. And then to do it in New Orleans, after they'd had so many heartbreak games inside that Superdome, to kind of exercise those demons, so to speak, it was the obvious answer, beating Clemson in New Orleans for a national title.
Chris, it's kind of funny now as we reflect back, because I remember headed into that football game, I thought that LSU was going to win it simply because I can't remember a team playing as well and being as hot as they were at the right time. And with that said, that game starts, and early in the first quarter, the way that Clemson came out and the way that LSU came out, and then kind of thinking back to the year prior, how Clemson had manhandled Alabama, I'm starting to think maybe this Clemson team is just on a different level than everybody else. But then all of a sudden, this LSU team, as it does so many times, gets a little spark. And with this offense, it only takes a spark to ignite a fire. And what they did in that game is what we've seen them do many times this year, is start out either kind of okay or just kind of good, never really bad, but just kind of good. And all of a sudden, a few sparks start, that fire begins to burn, that dam breaks, and the water begins to, flow throughout. And it really was phenomenal watching this team in the second half of this game and what they did to Clemson.
Yeah, we were all felt the same way you did, in that opening half in New Orleans, that, they were able to really, get pressure on Joe. He didn't look comfortable, wasn't able to get set, didn't have time to go through his progressions, all of the things that you really had not seen from any other team. But, as Doug Morrow, who does color for me on the radio broadcast, he knows more football than anybody I ever known. He was an All-American, obviously, at LSU, and played every position virtually. He was a receiver, a running back, and also punted the football. But Doug kept saying, guys, they've thrown everything in the kitchen sink at LSU defensively, and yet they only lead by a touchdown or 10 points. That's not going to last. They gave their best shot in the first half, and for that reason, we all were pretty confident that eventually that dam would break, as I said. And Joe Burrow and those receivers, when they keep coming at you play after play after play, you can hold for a while, but eventually, we saw last year in 2019, you're going to give it up.
Once again, we're talking to Chris Blair. He is the voice of the LSU Tigers. Chris, we appreciate so much you taking some time and being with us, but I have to ask you one more thing before we let you go. We talked about your favorite moment of the 2019 season, but I want to ask you about prior to the 2019 football season, because you have called so many big moments, not just in football, but in baseball and basketball and other things. So my question for you is this: outside of the 2019 football season, what has been your favorite moment as the voice of the LSU Tigers?
Well, I guess it's got to be basketball. Growing up in the state of Kentucky, that was, you get a basketball, a bottle, and bourbon, not necessarily in that order. And, last year, Will Wade and his team going to Rupp Arena, where LSU had not had a whole lot of success ever, but certainly it's been a long time since they had a victory against the Wildcats on their home floor. And the way that game ended on a tap-in at the buzzer, a little controversial,
Right.
took a few seconds before they decided the game was over, and then the eruption after it was all said and done. For me personally, that was a great moment, simply because I was back inside a building that I had spent time as a kid,
Right.
growing up in the state, watching Kentucky play, and to come back with LSU and get that win was special to me. And, you know, from a baseball standpoint, there's been so many big games in the 5 seasons I've been involved with Paul Maneri and LSU baseball. It is certainly, like many in the SEC, it's just second to none when it comes to the sport of college baseball. But the win in 2017 up in Omaha over Oregon State, who, you know, everybody thought was going to roll up there and win, LSU had to play them later in the week, in that first week, and was able to eliminate Oregon State. And I just remember the moment after the game, getting back to the team hotel. LSU fans took over the city of Omaha, so it was absolutely filled with purple and gold. And just to see the accomplishment on those guys' faces that went and did what many people think couldn't be done, and that was send the Beavers back to home. And so that was one that also stood out. But, you know, when you get the blessing I have and privilege to call, you know, some of the best student athletes for both teams, you know, to sit courtside, to sit at the 50-yard line, sit behind home plate and see, you know, week in, week out, SEC basketball, baseball, and football, you get to see some incredible things. And for that, I'm very fortunate and very, very blessed. So we could probably do another hour on great moments in just the 5 years here I've been at LSU.
Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. And I want to encourage all of our fans, there might be another place to do it. I've been on YouTube. There are some really, I know it's not having sports right now is difficult, but you can go on there and type in Chris Blair LSU, and there are really some amazing calls on there. It just really brings back some memories, even if you're not an LSU fan. Chris, for all of our listeners on the radio and our viewers on the Dr. SEC TV network, can you let them know where they can find you on social media and kind of follow you throughout?
Yeah, you know, it's a good point, because like you and like everybody else, we're all longing for sports and reminiscing, going back and watching great games and great moments. And, you know, we're doing the same here at LSU, trying to keep the fans engaged. And we're doing a little bit of that, showing some highlight packages. And you can find me on Twitter at LSU Tigers Voice, just at LSU Tigers Voice, and same thing on Instagram. So we're going to be pumping out some more social media content, trying to keep the fans engaged as we all try to continue to hunker down, stay in place, stay healthy, and get this thing over with so we can get back to LSU Fighting Tiger football in Tiger Stadium in early September.
I'll say this lastly, Chris. This is how good you are at this, man. I am not a guy that wants to listen to, you know, a whole lot of baseball. It is an amazing sport. Anything you can fail 7 out of 10 times and be a Hall of Famer. I mean, that's how difficult that sport is. But man, it's fun to even listen to your baseball calls, especially a few of them there at the end of the game. Really is fantastic to watch the passion that you bring. And as SEC fans, man, we sure appreciate all that you do, Chris.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Look forward to doing it again when we're talking about SEC football about to crank up.